I want to read this comment by Mehdi right here. I think I think it has some merit to it. I've been investing for a while now. When the market misses things like this, it tends to have the biggest run once the market realizes it, and they will eventually just got to be patient. Sachin, you've been investing for longer than all of us. How do you kind of feel about the statement in general, outside of just Palantir?
No, I think I right, and that's what I say. I mean, that's why this is scope for my investing. I mean, before I invested in Palantir, I studied Palantir clients. I studied Palantir, what they do, what's good, what's bad in that. Okay, and there is a reason why companies miss it. Okay, like for example, first thing is there's a way we look at company. In a way, we want everything positive about company. Now, by the time everything is positive about company, Amazon become a $3,000 stock. Okay, so you have to decide what you are betting on, and it is driven by your world of future also. And I have discussed, like Chris mentioned, that we are not going to have enough data scientists. So the question is, if we are not going to have enough data scientists, how people are actually going to solve that problem? So one of the way to solve that problem is that you build a model, but you're not going to use a lot of data engineers and data scientists to maintain those models. So use something like an auto ML ops, which your data robot does for you. Another is that you use a company like Dataiku, which gives a tool set to a lot of ordinary people who can do 80-90% data science by themselves. They are two different versions of future. The third version of future is that are you using data scientists at all? I mean, at the end of the day, you need insights, you need actions, and you need to understand what scenarios are. So if you have an enterprise AI enabled that can do it for you, you actually remove the equation of data scientists altogether. Now, what is your version of future? Or another version is that you will eventually found this many data scientists. Okay, so you will invest based on your version of future. I mean, like for example, people who invested in Tesla, they invested with their version of future that EV is going to be the mainstream. People who did not who kept saying that EV is not going to be mainstream, and it includes every ICEO. Okay, every ICEO, they eventually have to eat their own words. So if you wanna invest for longer time, you need to have a view what world will look like. Okay, if you get wrong, you try to go back and see that why I got wrong. Okay, I mean, like, market and mainstream finance media will always miss innovative and disruptive company, because these people, they do not do business strategy, they have not spent time in industries, they have spent time only in Excel sheets talking to each other on Wall Street. I learned about Zumia when I was in Nigeria. Before that, I never cared about Zumia. I learned about Grab and Shopee because I'm in Malaysia. Okay, so if you're not on ground, I mean, I saw one of my clients spending $100 million on Palantir, and I said, dude, what's going on? I mean, I have never seen a company spending $100 million on a single company. There's something happening out there. Okay, and a lot of people met me in different roles, and they say, oh yeah, we do exactly same what Palantir does, but we do it at a cheaper cost. And then you say, okay, you do everything what Palantir does, I want this thing done. They say, oh, we don't do things A, B, C, and E, we only do D. So it's very easy to say that I'm like this and I'm like that, but guys, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about delivery. If Palantir delivers, it wins. If it doesn't deliver, somebody else wins. It's straightforward.
So guys, let's kind of like stop the Palantir for now. Let's just talk about some of the macro level events that may end up helping Palantir, because I think we're just beating a dead horse at this point. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I agree, but one thing I want to say is the insider sells real quick. We can spend like 2-3 minutes on this, then we can go to macro. So a lot of people have been asking about insider sells. Now, there's two things that have been going on with insider sells, and you can see this all in the 10Ks that are being filed. 4 C-suite executives, I don't have the name on me, but 4 of the C-suite executives sold shares to cover tax withholding for RSU vesting. This is basically what Karp did all of last year, where he was selling so many sets of shares. It's because he had options on shares that he's granted every 10 years. He has to buy those options. To buy those options, you need money to buy those shares and those options and those RSUs, which means you also have to pay taxes once you buy those. That means you have to sell shares to be able to cover the taxes. That is what most C-suite executives have been doing. One of the C-suite executives, Alexander Moore, he's a director, he sold some of his shares for profit. Karp, here's the biggest thing, and this information comes from TJ. He's on Twitter. I'll probably leave him in the description after this is done. He's really good at like the numbers and financials of Palantir. Karp has not filed a Form 4 And a Form 4 is what every insider of a company has to file with the SEC when they sell shares. This is significant because it implies that he may be, now we may get this Form 4 later, we don't know, but as of now, he may be paying for the shares that he has to buy out of his pocket through his own withholdings because he's not filing a Form 4 to sell shares to be able to get the money to then buy those options. Why is that significant? Because that means that Karp is not trying to sell shares because he's already sold a lot of shares and he wants to hold on to the shares that he has. In general, it's a bullish sign that he doesn't want to get rid of any shares, especially not at $10. So for anyone who had insider selling questions, that is the truth about what's going on with insider selling. Now, are we going to get a form from Karp that says he sells some shares? Maybe, and we'll see what happens when that happens. But as of now, that form has not been filed yet. And as a result, that means that Karp is not selling shares. He's paying with it with his own money. Cool. Chris, Chris, you can lead the conversation of the macro event. I pinned this one macro question, but take it where you want.
Yeah, I think right now we are in a very precarious macro environment, right? I think there's a lot of questions around how many rate rises is the Fed going to do? How is that going to end up affecting valuations? That's why if you look at it, all these companies, they've been decimated. Like the entire tech industry has been decimated. But that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing because this is the time where investors really who can actually do the research, get some high quality assets, buy them up at a super cheap price. This is where you make money. This is the equivalent of the year 2000 when all these big tech companies all failed. And, then the ones that were left were really strong companies. That's what's going to happen now. I think 2022 is probably going to be a very rough year for tech in general for growth. But the companies that do survive it and that still build that value proposition will end up doing very well into the future. And I think Palantir is definitely going to be one of them. They're free cash flow positive. They don't have any debt on the balance sheet. They're still growing their revenues really fast. They have tons of backlog in terms of contract backlogs. They're still signing partnership deals. So like I said, a lot of people say that they're long-term investors, but they're actually speculators. This is the time to prove yourself whether you're a speculator versus an investor. And like I said, for me, I've just been DCAing. That's been my strategy from a long time with Palantir. So every time a lot of people, they want to just buy a big lump sum and hope that it 20x's tomorrow morning. That's not how investing works. Investing works over a long period of time, so that's where I stand with it.
Sachin? You're muted, Sachin.
See, my view on macro is very simple. See, I expect that Fed has to do some sort of ceremonial price rise. I also expect inflation to stay high because of all the energy thing going on. I think people will now see what oil does to them. I also expect oil price to keep rising. Okay, no one predicts oil price. This is just my view because the reason is that it's inelastic. Okay, it's already in the territory where the swings are going to be quite heavy. And to be fair, nothing is done by anyone to actually reduce the supply demand pressure. So there is no reason that it should stop increasing. So that's a real risk. Okay, supply chain risks are going to be quite serious because first, it was already a bottleneck. Second, that given the situation, countries would like to store as much as possible critical supplies. Okay, another thing is because a lot of vessels with the Russian flags or Russian ties are in soup because no one knows what the Europe and US sanctions will do to them. So there is a bit of concern on that part. The stock will only rise. Okay, even if some of these issues will resolve, I don't think the stock will rise too much by that as well, because the damage on stock is though done by it, but to rise it again, it needs company performance to come back. Okay, if companies are creating dollars and revenues with zero debt and high operating margin, guys, stock will rise against all kind of headwinds. Okay, yes, it's beaten because of it, but a lot of stocks that has been beaten, guys, maybe half of those stocks will never rise again to what they were. Okay, can Palantir be one of those stocks? Yes, Palantir could be one of those stocks if it doesn't get its act right. There is no shame in saying that. Okay, do I see that happening? I don't see it happening, in my opinion, as a very likely event, but you can never rule it out. The second is like Palantir has to ensure that they deliver more than they are promising in guidance. As long as they are doing that quarter and after quarter, it will go higher and it will keep on going higher. This is how the great companies are built, and Palantir has to prove its mettle in that. I think it's straightforward and simple. Back to you, Amit.
One thing before you can take it, Amit. How close do you guys think Palantir is to gap profitability? Because for me, I think 1.5, maybe 2 years, and you're going to start to see gap profitability. So many people were, and this is the same argument that people made against Tesla. Oh, if without those carbon credits, Tesla would do nothing. Well, guess what? What's your argument now? How much cash are they generating? How much net income are they generating? But guess what? Go buy Tesla stock now. Oh no, it's overvalued. Okay, so basically you were saying when it wasn't when it wasn't generating net income, it was overvalued at the time, and now it's even more overvalued. Come on, guys. So this is where I would say, and the other thing is, if you look at what Karp said on Q4, he's like, look, we're right there in terms of gap profitability. That is our next goal, right? Your CEO is out there saying, we're not taking this, this situation for granted where people are thinking that, hey, everyone's just going to be diluted into nothingness. They're taking it seriously. They understand that we have to be gap profitable. The CEO has come out and said it. Now it's up to him to hit that target. Any CEO that comes to me and says, look, our targets are to get to a point where we're gap profitable, that's great. And then on top of that, the institutional money hasn't even flowed in yet. Most of the holdings right now are still retail. So once these other once these institutionals, they see that it's gap profitable and it's still growing and has high margin, dude, they're going to be loading the boat. And when they're loading the boat, you're going to be competing against a guy who has $1 billion. Good luck with that.
And he can trade in pre-market, after hours, and dark pools also.
Yeah, and options. They can end up buying a ton in options. They could buy up different instruments on the secondary market too. So it's like I said, by the time there's so many people right now that are like, oh, I missed the Tesla run up. Well, yeah, you missed it because guess what? You weren't even willing to buy some when it was much, much lower. And here's the thing. I'm not saying take your entire savings and throw it into Palantir. I'm saying that, hey, if you think this company has the potential to go up really up there, you should be looking for companies like Palantir that have the ability ability to change the world, and that's where I say I think gap profitability. It might even happen this year. Who knows? If they sign the right contracts. If right now the war in Ukraine, you really think that like the entire business on Gotham's side has been built to deal with situations like the Ukraine situation? You don't think the U.S. government right now is scrambling to say, here's the money, give us the satellite information, give us the data analytics that we need to make a good judgment decisions, right? And this is where Palantir is probably leveraging like, oh, you want our help? It's going to cost you. And the government right now is just going to have to pay. So
I think Sachin, go ahead. You got it.
See, I think the government contracts and procurement, the way it is structured, I think the guidelines is already there, like what it will cost to hire what kind of service. I think this is exactly what Palantir fought in the early days. In terms of gap profitability, I think what Alex Karp said in his address was like 18 to 24 months. But my understanding is that they will try to do it little early, just to give everybody a pleasant surprise if they can. Okay. What is more important at this particular point is that, see, even if you look like, and I actually was covering with one discussion yesterday, that why I think it's important to invest in companies who has cash. Okay. If you have zero debt and if you have cash, you have longer lifeline to actually get your go-to-market strategy right. Okay. Now what we are seeing also that as a lot of companies have boosted their valuation in the recent run, and now they have to actually show like why the valuation was so high. And like, for example, I've said it earlier as well that Snowflake was solving a piece of problem, very critical piece of problem in a certain way, which was very, very simple, required very little change management, and it was popular. Based on that, people have projected certain valuation for it, certain revenue growth for it, but they do not have product to cover that breadth. So they only have one option, is to grow vertically by inorganic manner. That means need to acquire companies, and that's what they are doing. Now these companies and these products have to be reintegrated back into the main company. Okay, you will end up with some goodwill or a lot of goodwill on your balance sheet. You will run out of cash. because if you do not use your own cash, you have to raise debt. I mean, it's not zero sum game. If you do something, you need to. And these products, when they were initially developed, they were not built to work with each other. They had some connectivity that was different parts. So somebody has to ensure that that these things actually gel together in a very cohesive way. See, the data, engineering, and decision. Engineering is the bottleneck. The system has to work directly from data to decision. Okay, that's the end game. If you are focused too much on getting everything passing through engineering, at the end of the day, guys, we do not have that many data engineers and data scientists, and any company that is working on that approach for long term, yeah, I think it's already lost the war. But we are seeing just the progress of final rights.
One last thing, Amit, can you share my screen real quick? So this is what I'm just going to show you guys really quickly, okay? These are just the number of job postings recently that have been coming out for Palantir, for people with Palantir skills, okay? The number of analyst positions are crazy, all right? There's pages and pages of them just coming up right now, and they all require Palantir in some level of capacity to be training. Counterterrorism analyst, senior data analyst, every single thing is requiring, look at this, experience with Power BI, Python, and Palantir, right? Threat investigators, right here. Same thing. Booz Allen, defense research analyst requires experience with Palantir. All these things just goes to show you that this is a real product, and it's going to be something that the government is going to be using more and more. This one is Reston, Virginia. Reston, Virginia is, let's see, right here, experience with SAS, Python, Argus. Does it say, hey, we need experience with any other, what is that thing called? AI tool that works with the government? Does it say, oh, you need experience with Big Bear AI? No, it all says Palantir. So all I'm saying is the government revenue, it's coming. All right. You look at the number of job openings there are for people that need Palantir experience on the government side, or at least on a systems integrator side. That is going to tell you how much work is coming towards Palantir, how much money is coming in Palantir's revenue bucket eventually in the future.
I want to say one thing, then I want to talk about this DPO IPO conversation going on in the chat, because I just listened to Karp talk about it. One of the things Chris said before about Tesla, and I missed out on Tesla, and I had Tesla and I sold it for like a loss, like an idiot, right? Like I missed out on Tesla, and it kills me to this day that I missed out on it. But the reason for it was because I thought it was overvalued when it was like a, I don't know, $200 billion company, because I didn't understand how to make sense of valuations at its core. So what Chris is saying is like, now I can't buy Tesla at $5,000 post split. I literally, I can't do it because I need to 10x my money. You know, I'm 24, by 34, I want to get a 10x. I don't think Tesla's gonna be a $10 trillion. Now it might be, but it's a much, much more riskier bet than when it was a $50 billion company to become a $1 trillion company. What we're doing right now, and what we're doing with our content on YouTube, is we are trying to pick stocks. We are not an index ETF type of YouTubers, right? So when you're picking stocks, that's partly the reason why that's my answer to a lot of people say, why do you make all these videos on Palantir? Because why would I make 17,000 videos on every other stock? You're never going to understand a stock or a company that well unless you actually go that deep into it. The thing about the Palantir community is we've gone so deep onto this company, either we're going to be right or we're going to be wrong. But damn it, we've done a lot of research to come to a reasonable hypothesis for why we think we can be correct. And that means that we get the benefit of going in before the CNBC Tyler guy who puts a sell rating on Palantir at $11 gets to come in. Because there were those same analysts, please do not forget this. I was watching Ghali's Hyperchange video from 2018 where he was debating hedge fund managers, just like Sachin is talking about, that were shorting Tesla at like less than $100 billion market cap. There were those same people. These people are out there. They are not doing the work that we are doing. Am I saying we're all going to be right? No. But the amount of research we're creating and the due diligence we are doing is what will reward us in the long term if we are correct, based upon knowing stuff that regular analysts are not going to know. And that's the whole reason why we do these podcasts in the first place.